The desert was cruel that night, whispering with cold winds and stretching endlessly beneath a blanket of stars. The widow clutched the reins of her only horse, her last possession of true worth, as she stared down at the figure slumped in the sand. A wounded Apache warrior lay before her, breath shallow, eyes dim with the nearness of death. She knew she had little left to give. Her food was gone, her land nearly barren and her hope dwindling, but she still had her horse. The animal was her means of survival, her last lifeline in a world that had taken everything else from her. And yet, in that frozen moment under the moonlight, she made a choice that would change everything. She let go of her last treasure and gave it away to save a stranger. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Gentle Truth for more heart-touching and emotional stories. The widow's life had been carved by loss. Her husband had been gone for 3 winters, taken by fever that swept through their settlement, leaving her with nothing but memories and an empty homestead. Each day since then had been a struggle to survive. She had grown thin from hunger, her hands calloused from working the dry, unyielding earth. Neighbors had moved away, abandoning the land to dust and silence, but she stayed, tied to the place where she had once built dreams with her husband. Her horse was all she had left to help plow, to carry water, and to keep her tethered to survival. Yet when she found the Apache man collapsed near her fence line, bleeding from wounds she could not name, something within her shifted. She looked at him not as an enemy or a stranger, but as a human being clinging to the last strands of life. With trembling hands, she lifted him onto her horse's back, steadying his weight, though her own body shook with exhaustion. She pressed the reins into his hands, whispering words of encouragement, though she didn't know if he understood her language. Her heart pounded as the horse carried him away into the night, knowing that when dawn came, she would be alone, without her horse, without her companion, with only silence and the endless desert surrounding her. The hours that followed were heavy. She sat by the dead embers of her fire, staring at the horizon with eyes swollen from sleeplessness. Every sound of the desert echoed louder in her loneliness. Coyotes howled in the distance, and she thought of her empty barn, of her fields gone dry. She wondered if she had given away her last chance at survival. Fear gripped her, whispering that she had made a foolish choice. Yet beneath it all, a quiet voice inside her reminded her of her husband's words, "Do good when you can, even if it costs you." The night dragged on, long and merciless. The widow nearly collapsed into despair. She wept quietly, clutching the shawl around her thin shoulders, and prayed for strength. The cold bit at her skin, and hunger gnawed at her belly. But it was the silence that hurt most, the silence of knowing she was utterly alone. Then came the dawn. As the first light broke across the horizon, painting the desert in shades of gold and rose, she heard it, a distant sound carried on the wind, hoofbeats, at first faint, then growing louder. She thought she was imagining it, that hunger and exhaustion were playing tricks on her mind. But as she stepped outside her small cabin and shielded her eyes against the rising sun, she saw them. Her horse returned, trotting proudly, no longer burdened by weakness. And riding behind him was the Apache man she had saved. His wounds had been tended to, strength returned to his frame. But he was not alone. Behind him, stretching across the valley, came a herd of wild Mustangs, strong, untamed, magnificent creatures whose manes whipped like fire in the morning wind. The widow's breath caught in her chest. The Apache man dismounted and led her horse forward, bowing his head in silent gratitude. With a solemn gesture, he pointed to the herd now circling nearby, their hooves striking the earth like thunder. It was his gift to her, a return for her kindness. Where she had once owned only one horse, now she had many. Where she had thought herself abandoned and forgotten, she now saw that compassion had brought her not just survival, but abundance. Tears streamed down her face as she reached out to touch her horse's mane. The Apache man's eyes met hers, no words exchanged, but everything understood. He mounted one of the Mustangs and rode off into the desert, leaving her surrounded by the herd that would sustain her for years to come. That morning, the widow felt something stir inside her for the first time in years. Hope, not just for food or survival or land. Hope that kindness, even in the darkest of nights, would always find its way back in unexpected ways. She stood taller, her heart lighter, as the wild Mustangs ran in the dawn light around her. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Gentle Truth. Your support keeps these emotional and inspiring stories alive. Special request, comment below what you felt in the moment when the widow saw the herd of wild Mustangs for the first time.